I remember standing on the square with 70 other recruits, and I was a skinny little kid thinking, I'm out my depth. There was blokes with big chests, hairy chests, tattoos, moustache, and I was like, wow, there's no way I'm gonna be able to compete with these people. And as the weeks went by, the numbers got fewer, and I was still there. And every day I looked down the line and more people went, these big guys were going, it gave me strength, and it gave me belief. I thought, I can do this. At the age of 15, I ended up in a fight and I got stabbed, literally about 100 meters from my house. And I remember crawling back to the house. And as I was crawling, I was sort of going in and out, and it went from pain to sort of, as if I was drunk. I was like floating and realizing it's because the blood was leaving my body and I was about to collapse, But I remember that moment of crawling and thinking, I'm going to die. I've got to get out of it. I have to change my lifestyle. I've got to go. I eventually joined just after 17, and when I joined the parachute regiment, and that's when my whole life changed then. I realized I'd done the right thing. I knew this is where I needed to be, and I was now looking at real men, not little troublemakers from where I was that I thought was a big fish and I wasn't. These were real men, been to war just after the Falklands, respected, and I remember looking and thinking, that's who I want to be. I want to be remembered and respected for something good like these people. And that was my, I've got to do this moment.
Yeah, that's one thing I wanted to ask you about, is that initial moment, because you've described it a few times. I've seen in previous interviews about when you got there, it was like these real men. So what was that moment like? How did that change your sort of outlook and mindset?
As a young kid, I think I was, I don't want to call it fearless, I'd actually call it stupid. Nothing bothered me. Getting into a fight didn't bother me. Nothing. I wasn't scared of anything or anybody. I'd fight people twice my age, 3 times my age, not a problem. But then I realised now I'm stepping into a real man's world. This is an old nonsense bullshit world. And that happened immediately. And I remember standing on the square with 70 other recruits, and I was one of the youngest and definitely the skinniest, or one of the skinniest. There's 2 of us that are quite skinny. And I remember looking down the line, and it was blokes with big chests, hairy chests, tattoos, moustache, and I was like, wow. And I was a skinny little kid thinking, I'm out my depth. There's no way I'm going to be able to compete with these people. And that was in my mindset. And I was already starting to, mentally lose it and thinking, I ain't going to do it. Then I just thought, I'm here. I'm not going back to that lifestyle. I've got to make this work. And as the weeks went by, the numbers got fewer and I was still there. And every day I looked down the line and more people went, these big guys were going, it gave me strength and it gave me belief. I thought, I can do this. I'm going to do this. And I started to not get cocky, I got confident and believed in myself. And every day was difficult, every day was different and hard, but I just thought, I can do this. And it went on and went on and went on, and the numbers got fewer and fewer and fewer, and I was still there. And it was hard, and every day I felt like throwing my hand in, but the thing that stopped me doing it was going back to the lifestyle and the way I was. I couldn't do it. There was only one way I was going to go back to that, is if they said to me, you have failed, you're out. Until they tell me that, I'm going to keep going. And it was hard work. And at the end of it, there was 7 of us originals left, and I was the champion recruit. I was actually the best recruit for that troop. They were all great guys, don't get me wrong. I just shone a little bit more than, and I think, to be fair, I had an advantage having been in cadets. I knew some of the basic skills, so that helped me along the way. But on the physical side of it, it was hard. It's really hard. I was up against big, hard people. What
is that, to describe the training? What's it like? The test at the start, how's that going through that?
It was difficult, running with boots, running with weights, being in the gym for 40, 50 minutes of non-stop. Pushing myself. I'd boxed a lot, so I was used to, cardio work, but this was relentless. It was non-stop. There was no breaks, no breaks. You've been screamed at, shouted at, and you're being pushed really through your limits. And obviously the reasons for it are needed. It has to be done, and that's what they did. And yeah, I struggled with it. It was really tough. And then the sort of endurance stuff was something I wasn't really used to. Where in civilianization do you run around the mountains with a house on your back? You don't. And it was building me up for the right reasons to, get ready for potentially joining the battalion and going to war should it happen. And that was what it was all about. So that was difficult, getting used to that. But, I embraced it. I kind of enjoyed it. Every time I did it, I felt like I'd achieved something. And I've been so used in my school career eating one word: fail. Every exam, fail. when I did P Company as a young 17-year-old kid, it was the first time I'd really had the word Billingham, pass. And it was like, wow, I've just won the lottery. And I'm looking around the room of 40 of us that have attempted these tests, and I was one of 11 that got passed. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. And I really started believing in myself then. I thought, right, I can do this. And so those, going through it was hard, and every day, every run, although I was fit, I was saying to myself, I was kind of, the little angel was saying, throw the towel in and give up. The devil was going, run through the trees, just keep going, and the devil drove me forward on this one and got me through to where I needed to be.
Just a quick interruption from the video. I want to talk about our paid partnership with BetterHelp. As you guys are aware, I've always been super open about my mental health, anxiety, depression. For a long time, the way I would deal with that is by burying those emotions, working really hard, running hundreds of miles, and burying those feelings deep down inside. That's why over the last 2 years, I have stuck to online therapy. Weekly online therapy, and it's been absolutely incredible. It was a massive weight off my shoulders. I know I'm not the only person who feels like this, but sometimes it can feel like you are, and you can feel super alone in that anxiety, that depression. And then we have to add the mix of social media in there. For somebody like myself, I'm on social media all the time for work, but so many other people look on there and see these highlight reels of people's lives that's just not true reality. All of these things can be super overwhelming. For a lot of people, we decide to keep it to ourselves. We think we can battle through, we can push through. That's why I turned to online therapy, and you can too with BetterHelp. BetterHelp connects you with a credentialed therapist who can help navigate whatever you're going through. It's an online platform, so you can do your sessions from wherever feels comfortable. And if the first therapist isn't a right fit, you can switch at no extra cost. Most people using BetterHelp are looking for support with anxiety, and 69% report improvement after just 6 weeks. Therapy helped me shift my perspective, process things in a way I couldn't do alone, and actually start feeling lighter. If you've been thinking about therapy, this might be the right sign to give it a go. Click the link in the description or go to betterhelp.com/Mulligan Brothers for 10% off your first month of therapy. Let BetterHelp rule your anxiety, so anxiety doesn't rule you. Let's get back to the video. So what was that first experience like at war? Like what was your first experience?
Northern Ireland, and it was, at the time, back then in the 80s, Northern Ireland was, it was bad. There was stuff going on the mainland, there was stuff going on in Northern Ireland, people were getting killed, getting blown up, and the enemy, if you like, if that's what we want to call them, were not face-to-face enemy. They were cowards. It was people, you don't know who you're up against. So, the odds were all stacked against you. And I always used to think to myself, I know we're getting trained. I know we're going to get trained idly and it's going to be to the best we can be, but you've really got to be lucky every day. They only have to be lucky once. And I knew that. So I was always on my toes. So it was nerve-wracking. I was a young kid going out to Northern Ireland and people were getting killed, and we had, unfortunately, we had people killed on our tour, friends of ours. So it was always in the back of your mind, every day could be your last. Not to over-dramatize it, it was always there, and it had to be there. I think it was a good thing because it kept you alert, didn't get you complacent. You've got to be on your toes every minute you step out of that door. Even when you're indoors, there was chances of getting mortared or whatever. So without painting a dull, crazy picture, it was, you had to stay switched on. It was an intense time, tour.
For anyone who's getting into the military, what is that first adaptation to war? Like, is there the same thing everyone goes through? Or?
I guess so. There's two sides to it. There's the emotional side, or the worry of not coming back for your family and everybody else. That's always there for everybody. But secondly, it's challenging. It's exciting. It's like an adrenaline. This is a chance to prove myself. This is where I've trained to supposedly produce the goods, and now I'm going to go out there and produce the goods. And whether that's stopping terrorism or stopping whatever, or doing good things, that's what you're there to do. And no one knows. I don't know how I was going to react to being shot at, being close to being bombed or whatever, until you're out there and do it. And every single military person, man or female, will tell you the same. They want to go and experience it. Anybody who says they like war and war's great, they're fucking idiots. No one likes war. No one likes conflict. But that's our mainstay. That's our biggest test. A Formula One driver is trained to go as fast as he can and win a race. Dangerous, and got to do it. A soldier is there. The worst case scenario is to be put in a conflict type situation, and being able to keep your head, make a clear, clarified decision, and do the right thing. And that's what I wanted to know. Can I do that? Am I capable of doing that? Am I actually capable of not just doing it, but adding something to it and making a big difference? And I will say I was fortunate enough too. I enjoyed it. Not the conflict. I enjoyed the decision making. I'm very much a crisis manager. I'm pretty quick on my feet, thinking up, get a decision and go. I hate planning. I hate sitting back and think. The more you think about something, the more you tie yourself in knots, the more problems you throw into it. The longer you got to plan it. What if the enemy's got this? What if that? What if that? What if the meteorite falls out the sky and lands? And you can go on forever. I like quick reaction. And my first time of conflict allowed me to realise, actually, I can think on my feet, and when the situation changes and ain't as clear as we thought it was going to be, I can make a decision. And every single person wants to know that. How will I react? And
so war was that test for you guys, like the ultimate test.
Yeah.
So do you get, well, I mean, we spoke about this previously, like you get drawn into taking that test and again and again and again.
Yeah, because every time, no timing, any war, conflict, battle, whatever you want to call it, is the same. There's always surreal moments. There's always something different. It never, ever, I'll be honest with you, and I've done a lot of operational stuff, mainly with the regiment, but also with the parachute regiment. It's never, ever gone to plan. Never, ever. You know, it goes to plan in terms of we got the right result, but what we, at each stage we plan for, out the window. Normally from the moment you either step off the helicopter, step out of your vehicle, parachute into the place, everything changes. Communications will always go down. It just happens. So now you got to think on your feet. It's visual all the time, visual and verbal, keeping control of things. Oh my God, there's more than we expected. Oh my God, there's a minefield. Oh my God, there's civilians tied in the middle of this. How do we think on your feet? And every situation is different, you know. And I remember some of the bizarrest of situations in conflict. You know, in the Bosnia conflict, halfway through a horrendous sort of ground battle that was going on, is some guy washing his car like it's a Sunday afternoon. And you're like, where did that just come from? What the f is that about? War is strange. It's nasty and it's strange. You know, and you've got to now be able to think fast on your feet and can't just become all of aggressive and go for this. It's about changing and we live in a world of ramping up and ramping down sort of scenarios, because, you know, someone's out there trying to kill you. You've got to step it up to stop that. But in the middle of that, all of a sudden there's a family and bang, you've got to back off a bit and find another solution. You know, you're thinking all the time. It's a lot going on and it's challenging. And yeah, I enjoyed the challenges. I enjoyed it, you know. I didn't enjoy what the situation was, people getting killed and shit, but I enjoyed having to think and come up with a solution that's for the better.